Y'all, let me tell you something about love gone wrong. About a grandmother who was just trying to get her life back when evil came knocking at her door. Literally, Samantha Bozeman was about to walk away from the worst mistake of her life when that mistake decided she wasn't allowed to leave. She had locked her front door, thinking that thin piece of wood would keep her safe. But baby, when someone is determined to destroy you, not even your own home can protect you. He fired 4 bullets through that door. 4. 3 of them found their mark, tearing through this beautiful woman's body like she was nothing. Like 51 years of life, of love, of raising babies and holding families together meant absolutely nothing. And girl, what happened next? While Samantha Bozeman lay dying on her kitchen floor, bleeding out in the very home where she had loved and laughed and lived, this man, and I use that term loosely, went to Hooters. I said what I said, Hooters. Ordered wings like he hadn't just committed murder. If you're here for real true crime, for stories that don't sugarcoat the ugly truth about what evil looks like, then you better hit that like button and subscribe right now. We post new cases every single day. Stories that matter, stories that need to be told, stories that could save someone's life. And don't forget to hit that notification bell because trust me, you don't want to miss what we're covering next. Because we're about to dive deep into the life and death of a woman who deserved so much better than what she got. Let me paint you a picture of who Samantha Bozeman really was, because she was not just another statistic. Oh no, baby, this woman was the backbone of her family. Samantha wasn't just a grandmother, she was that grandmother. You feel me? The one who shows up before you even know you need her. The one who makes sure there's food on every plate even when her own stomach is growling. When life got too hard for some folks to handle their kids, Samantha stepped up and adopted her own grandchildren. Not because she had to, but because that's what love looks like in action. 51 years old and full of life, honey. Full of energy that could light up any room she walked into. People who knew her said she was happy, helpful, the kind of woman who gives without keeping a running tab of what you owe her. But here's the thing about good women, y'all. Sometimes they love the wrong people. And Samantha, she fell for someone who was about to become her worst nightmare. Maxwell Lardery, 33 years old, 17 years younger than her. Now, age ain't nothing but a number, right? But when that younger person brings nothing to the table except problems, girl, that's when you need to pay attention. This man had no career, no direction, no goals, but he had just enough charm to worm his way into Samantha's life and stick around like a bad habit for 4 whole years. 4 years of her life that she'll never get back. Now, let me break down what those 4 years looked like, because this is where the story gets real ugly real fast. Maxwell was living in Samantha's house like he owned the place, but contributing absolutely nothing. And I mean nothing. No rent money, no grocery money, no light bill money, nothing. But somehow he felt entitled to have opinions about how she should live her life. This is what we call economic abuse, and it's more common than you think. When someone drains your resources, lives off your hard work, and then has the nerve to make demands, that's not love, baby. That's parasitic behavior. But the disrespect didn't stop at money. Oh no, it got worse. This man had the unmitigated gall to tell Samantha she needed to give up custody of her adopted grandchildren. The same grandchildren she had fought for, legally adopted and was raising with her whole heart. Make it make sense. You're living rent-free in this woman's house, eating her food, using her electricity, and now you want her to choose between you and the baby she's been caring for? The audacity is astronomical. As one family member put it perfectly, he wanted to be the only kid in the house. A grown man acting like a jealous child, competing with actual children for attention and resources. For 4 years, Samantha tried to make it work, because that's what good women do. They try to see the potential in people, even when those people show them exactly who they are. But love doesn't pay bills, and it sure doesn't raise children. And slowly but surely, this relationship was draining the life out of her. Every strong woman has a moment when she looks around and says, enough is enough. for Samantha. That moment came when she realized she was sacrificing everything that mattered for someone who didn't even appreciate the sacrifice. Her daughter Zipporah will never forget the day her mama showed up at her job. Samantha was crying, shaking, completely exhausted. This woman, who had always been the rock for everyone else, was finally crumbling under the weight of trying to love someone who was slowly destroying her. All she said was, "I'm done with him." And baby, she meant every word. But here's what you need to understand about leaving toxic relationships. The most dangerous time isn't when you're in it, it's when you're trying to get out. Because that's when the person who's been controlling you realizes they're about to lose that control. And some people would rather destroy you than let you go. Samantha thought she was being smart. She locked her front door. She probably thought that would be enough to keep him out while she figured out her next move. But when someone is determined to hurt you, a locked door is just an obstacle, not a solution. Prosecutors later revealed there had been threats, escalation, that building pressure that happens when an abuser realizes their victim is slipping away. And Fulton County DA Fani Willis said what we were all thinking. We're tired of burying women to abusers. But Maxwell, he had already decided that if he couldn't have Samantha's life the way he wanted it, he was going to take it completely. This wasn't passion, y'all. This was cold, calculated control taken to its deadly conclusion. February 5th, 2024, Sanders Place in southwest Atlanta, a quiet street where Samantha had built what she thought was a safe space for her and her grandchildren. Let me set the scene for you, because what happened that evening shows you exactly what kind of monster we're dealing with. At 6:12 p.m., neighbors heard gunshots. Multiple gunshots. But when they tried to check on Samantha, she wasn't answering her phone. The house was silent. Too silent. When Atlanta police arrived, they couldn't get inside. The front door was still locked, the same door Samantha had secured, thinking it would protect her. That's when Atlanta Fire Rescue had to force their way in. What they found inside that house will haunt those first responders forever. Samantha was lying in her kitchen, unresponsive. She had been shot multiple times. 3 bullets had torn through her body. But here's the part that's going to make you sick. According to the coroner, she hadn't died immediately. This woman had been alive, bleeding out, suffering alone in her own home, while her killer was out living his best life. The scene told the whole story. Shattered glass everywhere. Shell casings scattered across the floor like deadly confetti. Bullet holes in the front door that looked like angry punctuation marks ending a sentence that should have been a love story. But the most important witness to this murder, Samantha's Ring doorbell camera. That little device captured everything: Maxwell's voice, his threats, his footsteps, and those 4 devastating gunshots that ended a beautiful life. On that video, clear as day, you can hear Maxwell outside that door, pacing like a caged animal. His voice was full of rage and entitlement. "If you come outside, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot your house." He wasn't hiding his intentions, y'all. He was announcing them like some kind of twisted warning that nobody could hear in time to save her. Then came the moment that changed everything. No argument through the door, no attempt to break in. Just 4 deafening gunshots fired through that locked door like it was made of paper. 3 of those bullets found Samantha. She had tried to create a barrier between herself and danger, but safety means nothing when someone is determined to destroy you. Now, what happened after those shots were fired will tell you everything you need to know about Maxwell Lardery's character, or complete lack thereof. A normal person, even someone who had just committed a crime in the heat of passion, might panic, might call for help, might show some kind of human emotion about what they'd just done. But not Maxwell. This man walked away from Samantha's bleeding body like he had just taken out the trash. While Samantha lay dying on her kitchen floor, and remember, she was alive for a while, suffering, probably calling out for help that would never come, Maxwell was out on the town trying to build himself an alibi. Girl, this man went to a strip club. Then he strolled into a Hooters, ordered food, laughed with people, acted like his hands weren't still warm from the gun he just fired. Hours passed. Hours, and Samantha's body was still there, growing cold, while this monster was out here eating chicken wings. That's not panic behavior, y'all. That's calculation. That's someone who planned this whole thing out and was trying to create reasonable doubt before her body was even discovered. District Attorney Fani Willis didn't mince words when she described what happened. As this grandmother lay and bled out in her very home, he was gallivanting all through the town, ending his night at a Hooters. It's just a horrible disregard for life. Horrible disregard for life. Let that sink in. This wasn't just about ending Samantha's life. It was about the complete dehumanization of a woman who had loved him, supported him, and given him 4 years of her life that she'll never get back. He didn't stay to see what he'd done. He didn't look back. He didn't show an ounce of remorse. He just ran his little errands, trying to rewrite history and put himself miles away when those shots were fired. But what Maxwell didn't count on was technology. That Ring camera didn't just record the murder, it became the strongest witness in Samantha's case, speaking for her when she could no longer speak for herself. When investigators got their hands on that Ring footage, they weren't just looking at evidence, they were watching a woman's final moments and listening to the voice of her killer in real time. The video was devastating in its clarity. Maxwell's face, his voice, his threats, and those 4 fatal shots were all right there in high definition. There was no way to deny what had happened, no way to claim it was self-defense or an accident. If you come outside, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot your house. Those weren't the words of someone who was afraid or acting in passion. Those were the words of someone who came to that door with murder on his mind. The investigation moved quickly once they had that footage. In March 2024, just weeks after Samantha's murder, Maxwell Lardery was arrested and charged. Gone was the confident man who thought he could eat wings and build alibis. Now he was in custody, facing the full weight of what he had done. Prosecutors didn't just rely on the Ring video, though. They built their case piece by piece. Ballistic evidence, shell casings, the trajectory of the bullets, and Maxwell's own movements around Metro Atlanta that night. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion. This was murder, plain and simple, cold, calculated, and personal. The case wasn't just about justice for Samantha. It was about sending a message that domestic violence that escalates to murder will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Her daughter Zipporah will never forget the day her mama showed up at her job. Samantha was crying, shaking, completely exhausted. This woman, who had always been the rock for everyone else, was finally crumbling under the weight of trying to love someone who was slowly destroying her. All she said was, "I'm done with him." And baby, she meant every word. But here's what you need to understand about leaving toxic relationships. The most dangerous time isn't when you're in it, it's when you're trying to get out. Because that's when the person who's been controlling you realizes they're about to lose that control. And some people would rather
Zipporah,
destroy
Samantha's
you than let
daughter,
you
remembers
go.
it vividly. Her
Samantha
mom showed
thought
up
she
at her
was being
job,
smart. She locked her front
crying,
door. She
shaking,
probably thought that would be
exhausted.
enough to keep
All
him
she said
out
was,
while she
"I'm done
figured
with
out
him."
her next
And
move.
she meant it.
But
But
when
walking
someone
away
is
from
determined
toxic
to
love
hurt
isn't
you,
easy.
a locked
And
door
sometimes
is just
when you
an
finally build
obstacle,
the courage
not
to
a
leave,
solution.
that's when they decide you
Prosecutors
can't.
later
That's where
revealed
Samantha
there
was,
had been threats,
ready to reclaim her
escalation,
life. When
that
Samantha
building
told her
pressure
daughter
that
she was
happens when an
done,
abuser
she wasn't just
realizes
talking
their
about
victim is
love.
slipping
She was
away.
talking about
And Fulton
survival.
County
Because this
DA
wasn't a
Fani
relationship
Willis said what we
anymore.
were
It was a
all
slow
thinking.
unraveling
We're
of
tired
peace.
of burying women
Domestic
to
violence
abusers.
doesn't always leave
But
bruises on the
Maxwell,
skin.
he had
Sometimes it
already
leaves stress in your
decided that if he
chest,
couldn't have
tears in your
Samantha's
pillow,
life the way
silence in
he
your
wanted
spirit.
it, he was going to take
Prosecutors
it
later
completely.
revealed there had been
This wasn't
threats,
passion, y'all.
control,
This was cold,
escalation,
calculated
the
control
kind that
taken
builds
to
like
its
pressure in
deadly
a pipe.
conclusion.
Until one
February
day it
5th,
explodes.
2024,
Fulton
Sanders
County
Place
DA
in
Fani Willis
Southwest
put it
Atlanta,
plainly,
a
"We're
quiet
tired of
street
burying
where
women to
Samantha had
abusers."
built what she
And in
thought
Samantha's
was a safe
case, that
space
burial
for her
came
and her
far too soon.
grandchildren.
Because once she
Let
said
me set
no,
the scene for
once
you,
she
because
truly
what
meant it,
happened that evening
Maxwell
shows you
decided if he
exactly
couldn't
what
have
kind
her
of
life the
monster
way he
we're
wanted
dealing
it,
with.
he'd take it completely.
At
This
6:12
wasn't a
p.m.,
crime of passion.
neighbors heard
This wasn't wasn't a
gunshots,
moment of confusion.
multiple
This was
gunshots.
control,
But when they
coercion,
tried to check on
a
Samantha,
warped sense
she
of
wasn't
ownership
answering
that
her
turned
phone.
lethal the
The
moment
house was
Samantha chose
silent,
herself.
too silent.
Samantha Bozeman
When
had
Atlanta
finally made her
police
choice.
arrived, they couldn't
She was
get
no longer
inside.
begging for
The
peace.
front door
She
was
was
still
claiming
locked,
it.
the
She
same
had
door
told her
Samantha
daughter,
had
she
secured,
had told herself,
thinking it
it's
would
over.
protect her. That's
She
when
locked the
Atlanta
door
Fire
on Maxwell
Rescue
Lardery,
had to
both
force their
literally
way
and
in.
emotionally.
What they
But
found
that's the
inside
cruel
that
irony of
house will
domestic
haunt
abuse.
those first responders
Sometimes,
forever.
the most dangerous moment is
Samantha
the
was
one right
lying in
after
her
you decide
kitchen,
to leave.
unresponsive.
February
She had been
5th,
shot multiple
2024,
times. 3
Sandridge
bullets had
Place,
torn through
a
her
quiet
body.
street
But
in the
here's the
Sandalwood
part that's
Estate
going to make you
subdivision of
sick.
Southwest Atlanta.
According to the coroner,
That's where
she
Samantha
hadn't
had
died
built her
immediately.
little world.
This woman had
A
been
red brick
alive,
home filled
bleeding
with
out,
love,
suffering
laughter,
alone in
and the
her own
grandchildren
home,
she was
while her
raising with
killer
pride.
was out living his best
That evening,
life.
everything
The
changed.
scene told
At
the whole
6:12
story.
p.m.,
Shattered
neighbors,
glass
concerned
everywhere.
after hearing
Shell
gunshots,
casings
called for a
scattered
welfare
across the
check.
floor like
Samantha
deadly
hadn't answered her
confetti.
phone.
Bullet
No one
holes in
had
the
seen
front
her.
door that looked
There was
like
only
angry
silence.
punctuation
When
marks
officers
ending a
arrived, they couldn't
sentence
get in.
that should have been a
The
love
front
story.
door, still locked.
But the most
No
important
response.
witness to
That's
this
when Atlanta
murder,
Fire Rescue was
Samantha's
called.
Ring
They had to
doorbell
physically force
camera.
their way into the home.
That little device
What they found
captured
inside would haunt
everything
even the most
Maxwell's
seasoned
voice,
officers.
his threats,
Samantha was
his
lying in her
footsteps,
kitchen,
and those 4
unresponsive.
devastating
She had been shot
gunshots that
multiple
ended a
times.
beautiful life.
3 bullets had struck her
On
body.
that video,
And despite
clear
her
as day,
wounds, she hadn't
you can
died
hear
instantly.
Maxwell outside
According
that
to
door,
the coroner,
pacing
she had been
like
alive
a
for a
caged
while.
animal. His voice was
Bleeding
full
out
of
alone
rage
in
and
the very home
entitlement.
where she
If you
once
come
felt safe.
outside, I'm going to
There
shoot
was
you.
shattered
I'm going to
glass,
shoot your
shell
house.
casings scattered
He
across the
wasn't
floor.
hiding his
The front door
intentions,
showed
y'all.
visible bullet
He was
holes.
announcing them
And on
like
her
some
Ring
kind
doorbell,
of twisted
a
warning
video
that
that
nobody
captured
could
it
hear
all.
in time to save
Maxwell's
her.
voice, his
Then
threats,
came
his
the moment that
footsteps,
changed
then 4 deafening
everything.
shots through the
No
closed door.
argument through
She
the
never
door.
had a chance.
No attempt
This
to
wasn't
break
random.
in. Just
This wasn't
4
burglary.
deafening
This was
gunshots
intentional,
fired through that
direct,
locked door like it
personal.
was made of paper.
And even as Samantha lay
3
dying,
of those bullets found
Maxwell
Samantha.
didn't call for help.
She had
He
tried
didn't
to
stay.
create a barrier
He didn't
between
panic.
herself
No,
and danger.
he walked away
But
from
safety
Samantha
means
Bozeman's
nothing
bleeding
when
body
someone is
like it was
determined to
nothing,
destroy you.
as if her life was
Now,
disposable.
what happened after those
as if her
shots were
final
fired
moments
will
didn't
tell you
matter.
everything you
As
need
if
to
he
know
hadn't
about
just erased a
Maxwell
mother, a
Lardery's
grandmother,
character
a
or
woman who loved
complete
him
lack
far more
thereof.
than he ever deserved.
A normal person,
And what he did
even
next
someone who had just
will leave you
committed a
sick.
crime in the heat of
While
passion,
Samantha lay dying
might
on her kitchen
panic,
floor,
might
Maxwell
call for
went
help,
out, not
might
to
show
confess,
some kind of
not
human
to
emotion
hide.
about what
He
they
went out
just
to build
done.
a story.
But not
He wandered
Maxwell.
across Metro
This
Atlanta
man
trying to
walked away from
fabricate an
Samantha's
alibi.
bleeding body
He showed up at a
like
strip
he had
club,
just taken
then
out
made
the
his way to a
trash.
Hooters, ordered
While
food,
Samantha lay
laughed with
dying on
people,
her kitchen
pretended
floor,
like his
and
hands
remember,
weren't
she
still
was alive
metaphorically
for a
smoking
while,
from the gun he just
suffering,
fired.
probably calling out
Hours
for help that
passed.
would never come.
And Maxwell?
He
He was out
on the town
gallivanting,
trying to build
trying to
himself
create
an
the illusion
alibi.
that he had nothing to do
Girl,
with
this
her
man
murder.
went to a strip club.
That's not panic.
Then he strolled
That's
into
calculation.
a Hooters, ordered
Fulton County
food,
District Attorney
laughed
Fonnie
with people,
Willis didn't
acted
mince
like
words.
his hands
She
weren't
called
still
it exactly
warm
what it
from the
was,
gun he just
a horrible
fired.
disregard for
Hours
life.
passed.
Because this wasn't
and
just
Samantha's
about
body
ending
was
Samantha's
still there,
life.
growing
It was
cold,
about the
while this
cold-bloodedness
monster was out here
afterward,
eating
the
chicken
complete
wings.
lack of humanity,
That's
the
not
decision
panic
to let her
behavior,
die
y'all.
slowly,
That's calculation.
quietly,
That's someone
in the
who
very
planned
home
this
she
whole
once
thing
used to
out
protect
and was trying to
others.
create reasonable doubt
He
before
didn't
her body
stay.
was even
He
discovered.
didn't look back. He just ran
District
errands.
Attorney
He
Fonnie
tried to
Willis
rewrite the
didn't
timeline,
mince
putting
words
himself
when she
miles away
described
when the
what
shots were
happened.
fired.
As this
But what he didn't count
grandmother
on
lay and
was
bled
that Ring
out in her
camera,
very home,
the one that
he
caught
was
his face,
gallivanting
his
all
voice,
through the town,
his footsteps,
ending his night at
his
a
threats.
Hooters. It's
And
just
those
a
4 fatal
horrible
shots,
disregard
it
for
told the
life.
truth he tried to bury.
Horrible disregard
Maxwell thought
for
he
life.
could walk away
Let
from
that
murder
sink
and eat
in.
wings
This
at
wasn't just
Hooters
about
like it
ending
never
Samantha's
happened.
life. It was
But
about
Samantha's
the complete
death was never going to be
dehumanization of
that
a woman
silent
who had
one.
loved him, supported
In
him,
the end,
and given
it
him
was
4
Samantha's
years
own
of her
doorbell
life
that spoke the
she'll never
loudest.
get back.
When investigators
He
reviewed
didn't
the
stay
ring
to see what
footage,
he'd done.
they weren't
He
just
didn't
looking
look
at a
back. He didn't
timeline.
show an
They were
ounce
watching
of
a
remorse.
woman's
He
final
just
moments,
ran his little
and they were
errands,
listening to the voice
trying
of
to
her killer.
rewrite history
On
and
that
put
video,
himself
clear as
miles
day,
away
Maxwell
when
Lardery
those
argument can be
shots
heard
were
outside the
fired.
front door,
But what
pacing.
Maxwell
His
didn't
voice was
count on
angry,
was
controlling,
technology. That
threatening.
ring camera
If you come
didn't
outside, I'm
just
going to shoot
record
you.
the murder,
I'm
it
going to shoot
became
your
the
house.
strongest
He
witness
wasn't
in
hiding his
Samantha's
intent.
case,
He was
speaking
announcing
for
it.
her when she could no longer
Then
speak for
came the
herself.
moment. No argument,
When
no
investigators
forced
got their
entry,
hands
just
on that
4
ring
deafening
footage,
gunshots
they
through the
weren't
front
just
door.
looking at evidence.
3 of those
They were
bullets
watching a
tore into
woman's
Samantha's
final
body.
moments and
She had
listening to
locked
the
him
voice
out.
of her
She
killer in
thought that
real
would keep her
time.
safe. But
The
safety
video
means
was
nothing when
devastating
someone
in
is
its
determined
clarity.
to destroy
Maxwell's
you.
face,
And the
his
ring
voice,
camera caught every
his
second of
threats,
it.
and those 4
It
fatal
showed
shots
prosecutors
were
and jurors
all right
and the
there in
world
high
that this wasn't a
definition.
fight.
There was no
It
way
wasn't
to
heat of the
deny what had
moment.
happened.
It was
No way to
premeditated,
claim it was self-defense
calculated,
or an accident.
deliberate.
If you come outside, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot your house. Those weren't the words of someone who was afraid or acting in passion. Those were the words of someone who came to that door with murder on his mind. The investigation moved quickly once they had that footage. In March 2024, just weeks after Samantha's murder, Maxwell Lardery was arrested and charged. Gone was the confident man who thought he could eat wings and build alibis. Now he was in custody, facing the full weight of what he had done. Prosecutors didn't just rely on the ring video, though. They built their case piece by piece: ballistic evidence, shell casings, the trajectory of the bullets, and Maxwell's own movements around Metro Atlanta that night. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion. This was murder, plain and simple, cold, calculated, and personal. The case wasn't just about justice for Samantha. It was about sending a message that domestic violence that escalates to murder will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. In March 2025, exactly 1 year after his arrest, Maxwell Lardery faced a jury of his peers. And let me tell you something, that jury saw right through whatever sob story his defense tried to sell. The evidence was overwhelming. The ring footage was damning. The timeline was clear. This wasn't some tragic misunderstanding or crime of passion. This was premeditated murder. When that verdict came back, guilty of murder, the courtroom went silent. You could feel the weight of that word hanging in the air. Guilty. Finally, someone had said what Samantha's family had known all along. He did it. Her daughters wept, not because it brought their mother back, but because finally, someone in authority had acknowledged the truth of what happened to her. Senior Judge David Emerson handed down the sentence: life in prison with the possibility of parole, plus 5 additional years, plus 10 years of probation if he ever walks free. For some people, that felt like justice. For others, it didn't feel like enough, because at the end of the day, Samantha is still gone. Her grandchildren still don't have their grandmother. Her daughters still don't have their mother. No verdict can fill that hole. But here's the thing. Maxwell's legal team isn't done. Shortly after the sentencing, they filed a motion for a new trial. They want a second chance, the same kind of second chance Samantha never got. The DA's office isn't having it, though. To them, the evidence is clear, the footage is damning, and the jury got it right the first time. So now we wait for appeals, for decisions, for more court dates. But one thing remains absolutely certain: Samantha Bozeman is still gone, and the man who took her life is exactly where he belongs. But y'all, this story can't just be another headline that we read and forget. Samantha's murder needs to be a wake-up call about domestic violence and how it really looks in our communities. See, domestic violence doesn't always look like black eyes and broken bones. Sometimes it looks like economic control, like a grown man living off a woman's kindness and refusing to contribute anything meaningful to the household. Sometimes it looks like emotional exhaustion, a woman begging someone to care about her the same way she cares about them. Sometimes it looks like isolation, like someone trying to separate you from the people you love most. Samantha's story is every woman's warning, every grandmother's fear, every daughter's nightmare, because this could happen to anyone: your sister, your mother, your friend, your neighbor. The pattern was clear: a man 17 years younger living off Samantha's generosity, refusing to contribute, demanding she give up her adopted grandchildren, emotionally draining her until she found the strength to walk away. And when she finally said, "I'm done," that became her death sentence. Let this case be more than just entertainment. Let it be education. If you or someone you know is experiencing any form of domestic abuse, economic, emotional, or physical, say something. Don't wait until the bruises are visible or the obituary is written. There are resources out there. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7. Local shelters exist. The Fulton County DA's office has an entire division dedicated to domestic violence cases. But the first step is believing the victim. The second step is helping them survive. Remember Samantha's name, share her story, tell your daughters, your sisters, your mothers, your friends that economic abuse is real, that threats are never just words, and that when someone says they're done with an abusive relationship, they need protection, not punishment. May Samantha Bozeman's memory be more than just mourning. May it be a movement, and may no other grandmother, no other mother, no other woman have to pay with her life just to be free. This was the story of Samantha Bozeman. Let it be the reason someone else survives. And listen, if this story moved you, if it opened your eyes, if it made you think twice about the signs you might be missing in your own life or someone else's, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because the more people who understand these patterns, the more lives we can potentially
Laura talks
save.
about her mom's strength,
Drop a
her
comment below and
kindness.
let me know what you think about this case. Have you seen these warning signs in relationships around you? What resources do you think our communities need most to combat domestic violence? We'll be back tomorrow with another case that needs your attention. Until then, stay safe, look out for each other, and remember, if something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. Peace.